Hi everyone. On October 27th, the Holy Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of a really remarkable saint. And I know I probably say that all the time in this series, but all of the saints are remarkable in one way or the other. In this case, it's a Romanian saint, and his name is Demetrius the New. Now, Demetrius lived between the 12th and 13th centuries, and he was from the area of Wallachia and the village of Basarabov. Now, from a very early age, this young man, though poor, was still very pious and very attuned to the things of God found in nature and all around him. And this was probably increased because of his activity as a cattle attendant. In other words, he would tend cattle out in the fields and watch them, and during this time had lots of time for reflection and just marveling at all the mysteries of God that he saw all about him. Well, in fact, on one day while he was at these activities, he accidentally stepped on a bird's nest, and the nestlings underneath his feet were all crushed and killed. Demetrius was just mortified at this, completely conscience-stricken, didn't know what to do or how to react. And so what he did is he took his shoes off, and despite the cold weather, the harsh terrain, and the inevitable injuries that he would receive from all the rocks in that area, he went without shoes for the next 3 years in order to atone for this. Now, his love of God knew no bounds, and so he finally entered into a monastery in the Lom Valley and was someone who was absolutely the best monk you could possibly be. He was extremely humble. He was extremely ascetic. He would eat probably every 3 days or so. He had absolutely no possessions except his own body, a couple of cassocks, and a psalter. And he would pray incessantly, day and night, so that all of the brothers in the monastery were astounded by this, and all admired him greatly for the example, even at a young age, that he was showing everyone. Well, Demetrius, because he was so humble, was fearful that he might succumb to the passion of vainglory because of the things that the brothers were saying about him. And so he went to the abbot and received his blessing, which is important because you'd never leave your monastery without a blessing. And he left in the middle of the night and went not far away from the monastery, but far enough so that the brotherhood there would not remember him after a few years. And he did his ascetical exercises in a cave between two large rocks near the Lom River. For many years he was there, again, praying day and night in complete solitude, not wanting anything from anyone, no pride whatsoever, simply to grow closer to his God whom he loved so much. And eventually, after understanding that he was going to repose soon, he did indeed lie down between those two rocks out in the open ground and gave his blessed soul back to God. Well, as I mentioned, the brotherhood did indeed forget about him after a number of years because he had not shown up there again and knew no one else in the village or anywhere else around him that we know of. It must have been very sparse eating habits indeed. But after a while, the Lom River flooded, as it was wont to do at different times in history, and his body, which was laying down in rock and gravel and dirt, was washed away by the river, so his relics disappeared. Well, after a while, there was a girl in that area who was possessed by a spirit. She had been very troubled for many, many years, didn't know what to do about it. But lo and behold, Demetrius appeared to her in a dream one night when she was sleeping and said, "Child, ask your parents to pull me out of the water, and if you do, you will be cured." Well, the child did indeed asked the parents and told everyone about the dream, and even the priest understood that it could have significance, and so all of the parishioners, the people in the area, went and they located under the water St. Demetrius's relics. and they put them and took them back into the village. And that very day, the young girl was cured of demonic possession. But Demetrius never wanted to leave his native land. And in fact, at one time, there were some princes from Russia that were trying to take his body away, and they didn't know what to do. The people didn't want him to leave, so they loaded up a cart with 2 untrained oxen and set them loose to see which way they would go. And the oxen came back to the area where Demetrius was born, and so there he stayed for many, many years. There was one attempt even during the First World War by some Bulgarians that wanted to steal the relics of Demetrius and bring them to Bulgaria. And they were able to accomplish this, but as they were driving, they lost their way and drove around all night trying to find the bridge that would take them across the river. In the morning, they were captured, and Demetrius's relics were returned to his village. Well, eventually the relics indeed were moved. They were moved to the Patriarch Cathedral in Bucharest, where they remain today, adorned in great splendor with icons, and many, many people come, even to this day, to ask St. Demetrius for all manner of different things, whether it's for jobs or illnesses or protecting their sons and daughters if they go out to war. You name it, these prayers have been offered to God through the intercession of St. Demetrius, who readily grants them, even now in our own day. As I said, a remarkable saint whose ascetic efforts will remain silent only unto the ears of God. But it does show us that if we can partake even a little bit of some of the efforts that St. Demetrius engaged in, that our reward too will be great in the kingdom of heaven as we unite ourselves with our Lord Jesus Christ. Bye-bye.